Commander Jack Harlow stood at the viewport of his ship, watching Earth grow larger as they approached. 6 months in deep space had left him tired, but eager to see his daughter Lily again. She was all he had left after his wife died 3 years ago. The familiar blue planet filled him with a sense of coming home. "Commander, we have an urgent message from Earth Command," said his communications officer. Jack frowned. "Put it through to my quarters." In his small cabin, Jack activated the screen. Admiral Wilson's face appeared, looking uncomfortable. "Jack, things have changed while you were away. We made first contact with an alien civilization called the Zithian Collective. They're advanced, powerful, and interested in an alliance." Jack nodded slowly. "That's good news, isn't it?" The Admiral shifted in his seat. They requested a cultural exchange program. Young representatives from Earth will spend time learning from their civilization, and they'll send some of their own. "What does this have to do with me?" Jack asked, though a cold feeling was growing in his stomach. "Your daughter Lily has been selected. Her test scores and adaptability ratings made her an ideal candidate." Jack's hands clenched into fists. "No, absolutely not. She's 17. She's all I have." "I understand your concerns, but this isn't a request, Jack. The decision has been made at the highest levels. The ship carrying the Earth representatives leaves in 3 days." Jack's return to Earth was a blur of arguments and pleas. He met with every official he could, called in every favor, but found the same answer everywhere. The alliance with the Zithians was too important. Humanity needed their technology and protection. "Dad, maybe it won't be so bad," Lily said the night before she was scheduled to leave. Her brown eyes, so like her mother's, looked at him with a mix of fear and excitement. "I'll learn so much, and I'll be back before you know it." Jack hugged her tightly. "I've asked for a neural link. It's experimental, but it will let us communicate even across great distances." "They approve that?" Lily asked, surprised. "Not exactly, but the doctor who installed it owes me a favor." Jack touched the small spot behind her ear where the tiny device had been implanted. "Just think of me, and I'll receive your thoughts. It won't work all the time with the distances involved, but it's something." The next day, Jack watched helplessly as Lily boarded the Zithian ship along with 9 other young people from around the world. The alien vessel was like nothing he had ever seen, a swirling mass of silver that somehow held its shape. The Zithian representatives were tall, thin beings with gray-blue skin and forearms. They made promises of care and education in their smooth, musical voices. Jack didn't trust them for a second. 2 weeks passed with no word. Jack returned to active duty, but checked his neural link constantly. Then, in the middle of a routine patrol near Mars, it activated. "Dad? Dad, can you hear me?" Lily's thoughts came through fragmented and filled with fear. "Lily, where are you? Are you okay?" They lied. This isn't a cultural exchange. They sent us to a planet they call the Proving Grounds. It's terrible here." Jack froze. "What do you mean? What are they doing to you?" "They dropped us off with basic supplies, said the worthy would survive. There are things here, ... creatures, ... The connection broke." Jack immediately requested emergency leave and flew back to Earth. For the next week, he received only brief flashes from Lily, enough to learn that KL-487, the Proving Grounds, was a planet with extreme conditions where the Zithians abandoned representatives from various species to test their survival skills. Jack took the fragments of communication directly to Earth Command. Admiral Wilson wouldn't meet his eyes. "You knew," Jack said quietly. "You all knew what would happen to them." "The Zithians judge species by their ability to survive," the Admiral finally admitted. "Those who prove worthy earn respect in their collective. And those who don't?" are deemed unworthy of alliance. Jack slammed his fist on the table. You sacrificed 10 kids to impress some aliens? We sacrificed 10 for the safety of billions, Wilson said. The Draconids are pushing at our borders. Without the Zithians' protection, humanity won't last a decade. 3 days later, Jack received the last transmission from Lily. The mental. Images were chaotic jungle, teeth, blood. Her fear pounded through the link. Dad, there's too many of them. I can't. I'm sorry, then nothing. Jack went to Earth Command one final time, now armed with recordings of all Lily's transmissions. He played them for the assembled officials, watching their faces. Some looked ashamed. Others remained impassive. Your daughter lasted longer than we expected, one general said. The Zithians might be impressed. Something broke in Jack at those words. His daughter wasn't a test subject. She wasn't a sacrifice for humanity. That night, he used his command codes to enter a secure facility where an experimental stealth vessel was being developed. The ship, barely larger than a fighter, but equipped with technology years ahead of standard military craft, had been his project before the deep space mission. He methodically loaded it with weapons, supplies, and everything he could think of that might be useful. The ship's AI system, VEGA, recognized his voice commands. Where are we going, Commander Harlow? Vega asked as Jack started the launch sequence. First, we're going to gather information, Jack said. Then we're going hunting. Alarms began to sound as the facility's security systems registered the unauthorized. Launch. Jack ignored them, pushing the ship to full power and shooting into the night sky. Vega, erase all tracking signatures and set course for Nexus Station. As Earth fell away behind him, Jack made a silent promise to his daughter. If she was still alive, he would find her. If she wasn't, he would ensure the Zithians paid for what they had done. Not just to Lily, but to all the others they had sacrificed. On their proving grounds, they had taken his child and sent her to a Deathworld. He would return the favor, planet by planet. 6 months passed. Jack Harlow was no longer a commander. He was a ghost, a rumor, a man who existed on the edges of known space. His stolen ship, which he now called Vengeance, drifted into the docking bay of Nexus Station, a massive space structure that served as a meeting point for dozens of alien species. Here, far from Earth and the Zithian collective, Jack could move unnoticed. He had changed his appearance. His once short military haircut had grown out, and a beard now covered his face. He wore the clothes of a common trader, nothing that would make anyone look twice. Docking fee is 50 credits, said the station officer, a being with green scales and 4 eyes. Jack passed over the money without a word. He had learned to save his words, to watch and listen instead. For half a year, he had been gathering information, building a network, learning everything he could about the Zithians. His first stop on the station was a small bar called the Broken Orbit. The place was filled with species Jack had never seen before, all talking, drinking, and making deals. He sat at the counter and ordered a drink. You look like you've had a rough journey, said the bartender, a human woman with gray hair pulled back tightly. Long one, Jack answered. He studied her. Not many humans this far out, she smiled. Names. Eleanor Wright. Dr. Eleanor Wright, actually, though that title doesn't mean much here. Jack raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. Don't worry, she said, leaning closer. I'm not going to turn you in. We all have our reasons for being far from home. Over the next few days, Jack kept returning to the Broken Orbit. He learned that Dr. Wright had been a xenobiologist on Earth, studying alien biology. She had been forced to leave after presenting theories about Zithian physiology that the new Earth-Zithian alliance found politically problematic. They're not as perfect as they want everyone to believe. she told Jack one night after closing. Their bodies have a weakness, a specific radiation frequency that affects their nervous system. I discovered it by accident, but when I presented my findings, I was told to bury them. When I refused, I became a problem. Jack nodded slowly. I need to know everything about them. Their planets, their society, their weaknesses. Eleanor studied him. Why? What did they do to you? They took my daughter. She didn't ask for more details. Instead, she pulled out a small data drive. This has everything I know. It's not enough to do whatever you're planning, but it's a start. The information from Dr. Wright was valuable, but Jack needed more. He joined the station's security team, using skills from his military days. This position gave him access to ships and travelers from all over the galaxy, including some with dealings with the Zithians. A month into his job, he broke up a fight between two cargo haulers. One of them, a stocky human named Frank Dominguez, had been throwing punches at a much larger alien. That thing cheated me, Frank said as Jack pulled him away. Later, Jack found Frank drinking alone. What kind of cargo do you haul? He asked, sitting down. Frank eyed him suspiciously. Whatever pays. Sometimes it's better not to ask too many questions. What if I needed to move something through Zithian space without being noticed? Frank laughed. Impossible. Their security is the tightest in the galaxy. But if someone knew the holes in their system, the blind spots? Frank stopped laughing. Why would you want to do something that's stupid? I have my reasons. Must be good ones. Frank finished his drink. I might know some routes. Used to run supplies to colonies that didn't want to pay Zithian taxes. But it'll cost you. I can pay. Over the next few months, Jack worked with both Dr. Wright and Frank. The doctor helped him understand Zithian biology, their social structure, and most importantly, how to exploit their weaknesses. Frank taught him the secret routes through Zithian space, the places where their patrols never went, the ways to fool their scanners. Jack also gathered a small team from the station people, who had their own reasons to hate the Zithians. They modified his ship, adding weapons designed to emit the specific radiation frequency that Dr. Wright had discovered. The Zithians have 7 planets, Dr. Wright explained one night as they studied star maps. Each one houses a different caste of their society. Zith Prime is their homeworld where the ruling caste lives. But if you want information about their Proving Grounds program, you'll need to get to their data repository on Zith Tertius. Can it be done? Jack asked Frank. The smuggler rubbed his chin. Maybe. There's a supply route that passes near enough. But you'd need a distraction, something big enough to pull their security away. They planned for weeks. Jack trained his small team, prepared his ship, and studied every piece of information about Zith Tertius and its defenses. Then, 3 months after arriving at Nexus Station, Jack made his move. Frank created a distraction by setting off security alerts in a commercial sector far from the data repository. As Zithian forces rushed to respond, Jack's ship slipped past their outer defenses. We have 30 minutes before they realize it's a diversion. VEGA warned as Jack and 2 of his team approached the repository in a small shuttle. Getting inside was harder than expected. They lost 1 team member to security measures they hadn't known about. But Jack and the other, a former hacker named Maya, made it to the central database. I need everything they have on the Proving Grounds, Jack told her as she connected to the system. Working on it, Maya said, her fingers flying. Over the interface. There's a lot here. Records going back hundreds of years. Dozens of species. Jack watched the time ticking away. Find the human records. Find Lily Harlow. Maya's search narrowed. Got it. Humans last intake. 10 subjects. 6 months ago. Jack held his breath. And 9 deceased. Maya looked up at him. her eyes wide. 1.1 survived beyond expected. Parameters. Jack's heart pounded. What does that mean? According to this, subject Lily Harlow displayed exceptional survival adaptability. She lasted 3 times longer than projected. They ... They took her for further study. Where? Jack demanded. Maya scrolled through more data. She was transferred to Zith Prime 2 months ago. For elite observation and research. Hope and rage warred in Jack's chest. Lily might still be alive. But what had they done to her? An alarm blared, cutting through his thoughts. We need to go, Maya said, downloading the last of the files. They know we're here. They barely made it back to the ship. As they fled Zithian space, Jack reviewed the stolen data. It contained not just information about Lily, but about all the tributes the Zithians had collected over centuries. Thousands of beings from dozens of worlds, all sent to die on the proving grounds while the Zithians watched and took notes. Vega, Jack said as they returned to Nexus Station. Plot a course to Zith Secundus. That's the agricultural center of the collective. Dr. Wright said when he told her his plan. Why start there? Jack's eyes were cold and determined. Because they need to eat. And I want them to starve while they think about what's coming next. Frank looked at the weapons they had installed on the ship. You're really going to take on their entire civilization? They sacrificed my kid to a Deathworld, Jack said quietly. I'm going to return the favor, planet by planet, and I'm going to find my daughter. Zith Secundus filled the view screen of Jack's ship. The planet was mostly green and blue, covered in vast farms and water systems that fed the entire Zithian collective. Jack had studied every detail of the planet for weeks. He knew its defense systems, its water distribution networks, and most importantly, its weak points. Final system check complete, VIA announced. Stealth systems at full capacity. We are undetectable to Zithian scanners. Jack nodded. Begin approach. Stay in the sensor shadow of their third moon. The ship, now named Retribution, slipped silently toward the planet. Jack had chosen this name carefully. This wasn't about blind revenge. This was justice. Maya, are you ready? Jack asked over the comm. Ready, she replied from her station. I can access their defense grid as soon as we're in range. Dr. Wright's voice came next. The nanits are programmed and ready for deployment. They will only affect the water supply to government and military facilities. Jack took a deep breath. Frank, prepare for atmospheric entry. We go in fast and low. Like stealing candy from a baby, Frank replied, though his voice betrayed his tension. If the baby had plasma cannons and a planetary defense system. They descended through the atmosphere at night, using cloud cover for extra concealment. The ship's engines were nearly silent, another modification they had made at Nexus Station. They landed in a remote area near one of the main water treatment facilities. Maya, you're up, Jack said. Maya's fingers danced over her console, accessing their defense grid now. Their security is good, but not good enough. After several tense minutes, she smiled. I'm in. Redirecting automated defenses away from us and toward their government compounds. Jack nodded. Dr. Wright, deploy the nanits. Eleanor activated the release mechanism. Thousands of microscopic machines flowed into the water system. They were programmed to contaminate only water heading to military bases and leadership homes. The contamination wouldn't kill, but would cause severe illness enough to create chaos without making Jack a mass murderer. Nanits deployed. They'll reach the main distribution centers within hours. Jack opened a channel that would broadcast to all Zithian communication systems. He had practiced this speech many times, making sure every word carried the weight of his purpose. People of the Zithian collective, he began, his voice steady and cold. You took my child to die on a Deathworld. I have come to return the favor. He paused. Your leaders have lied to you. For centuries, they have sacrificed representatives from dozens of species on what they call the proving grounds. I demand information about all surviving subjects, particularly my daughter, Lily Harlow. I also demand the immediate end of all. Tribute programs. You have 6 hours to comply. He ended the transmission. Now they waited. The response came from the Collective High Council within an hour. A tall, four-armed Zithian with elaborate markings appeared on the screen. This is High Counselor Drive of the Scythian Collective. Your demands are rejected. The testing of species is essential to our society. Your primitive understanding cannot. Grasp its importance. Surrender now or face elimination. Jack had expected this. Maya, activate Phase 2. Maya pressed a series of commands. Across the planet, agricultural drones that had been hacked remotely began to systematically destroy crops, but only those destined for the elite castes. Fields that grew food for the general population remained untouched. Let's see how the high and mighty feel about going hungry, Frank said with satisfaction. Within hours, the planet was in chaos. The defense systems Jack had reprogrammed were firing on government buildings. The nanites had reached their targets, and reports of illness among military and leadership were spreading. The agricultural drones continued their selective destruction. Jack, Dr. Wright called from her station. I'm picking up unusual communications. The lower castes are refusing orders. Some are actively helping spread the agricultural drones to new areas. Jack hadn't expected this. They're turning against their leaders? It seems your broadcast did more than threaten the leadership. It told the lower castes something they didn't know, that their leaders had been sacrificing others for their own gain. This changed things. Jack had planned to hurt the leadership, not start a revolution. But he couldn't ignore the opportunity. Maya, can you get into their internal communication systems? Send the lower castes the full data we stole about the tribute program. Maya nodded. On it. As the chaos grew, Jack prepared the next phase of his plan. Frank, take us to the capital city. We need to extract someone who knows more about the tribute program. The ship lifted off, still undetected, and flew toward the gleaming city that served as the center of government for Zith Secundus. Jack had identified one official who had overseen the tribute program. For years, Counselor Vextil. They landed on the roof of Vextil's private residence. Security was minimal. Most forces had been drawn away by the attacks on other government buildings. Jack, Frank, and 2 other crew members entered the building. They found Vextil trying to escape with bags of valuable items. Going somewhere, Counselor? Jack asked, his weapon pointed at the Zithian. Vextil froze. You, the human, who made the demands. His 4 arms raised slowly. I have questions. You have answers. Jack motioned with his weapon. About my daughter and the others you took for your proving grounds. I know nothing about individual subjects, Vextil said quickly. Jack stepped closer. I think you do. And you're coming with us to explain it all. They returned to the ship with Vextil as their prisoner. Under questioning, the truth emerged. Vextil had indeed been part of the program that selected tributes from various species. The ones who showed exceptional abilities were transferred to research facilities on Zith Prime, Vextil admitted. Your daughter was one of them. She survived longer than any human should have been able to. Is she still alive? Jack demanded. I don't know. That information is only available to the highest caste on Zith Prime. Before leaving the planet, Jack made one final broadcast, this time including Vextil's confession about the tribute program. He sent the message to all planets in the collective, ensuring everyone knew the truth about their leaders. As they left Zith Secundus behind, the planet was in the early stages of revolution. The lower castes had turned against the elite, demanding answers about the sacrifices made in their name. Where to next? Frank asked as they entered space. Zith-Tertius, Jack replied. Their military hub. We need to make sure they can't stop what we've started. Just as they prepared to jump to light speed, a message came through on an encrypted channel. The text was simple. She lives, but not for long. Jack stared at the words. Someone in the Zithian network was reaching out to him. Someone who knew about Lily. VEGA. Full speed to Zith-Tertius, he ordered. We're running out of time. 3 weeks after leaving Zith Secundus in chaos, Jack and his crew approached Zith-Tertius, the military hub of the Zithian Collective. Reports from across Zithian space indicated that Jack's actions had created ripples throughout their society. The lower castes were questioning their leaders, and some had openly rebelled. We need to be extra careful here, Frank warned as they hid behind one of Zith-Tertius's moons. This planet is nothing but weapons and soldiers. Jack nodded. He had spent the journey planning their attack down to the smallest detail. The radiation frequency Dr. Wright discovered is our main advantage. Their ships and weapons will be useless if we can deploy it across their defense grid. Dr. Wright looked up from her station. I've refined the radiation emitter. It should affect their nervous systems without killing them, just enough to disable them temporarily. Maya, what's our status on their communications? Jack asked. I've been monitoring them since we left Zith Secundus, she replied. They're in disarray. The leadership is trying to maintain control, but the truth about the tribute program has spread. Some military units are refusing orders. This was better than Jack had hoped. Can you access their fleet command systems? Maya shook her head. Not from here. We need to get closer inside their main command center. Jack considered their options. A direct assault would be suicide, even with the Zithians in disarray. They needed another approach. VEGA, show me the supply routes to the command center. The AI displayed a map of the planet, highlighting several routes. Jack studied them, then pointed to one. This one. It's less guarded and passes through areas populated by the lower castes. Frank nodded approvingly. If they're already sympathetic to our cause, they might help us get through. They approached the planet using the same stealth technology that had worked on Zith Secundus. This time, however, they added a new element, a captured Zithian transport ship they had taken during their escape. With Vextil's command codes, they could pass as a regular supply vessel dot as they entered the atmosphere. Jack addressed his crew. Remember, our goal is to disable their fleet, not destroy it. We want to make sure they can't stop what's happening on the other planets or send forces to Zith Prime before we get there. The plan worked better than expected. The lower castes along their route not only allowed them to pass, but provided information about security checkpoints ahead. Word of Jack's actions had spread, and many saw him not as an enemy, but as someone exposing centuries of lies. They reached the outer perimeter of the command center. Here, the real challenge began. Ready with the radiation emitter? Jack asked. Dr. Wright. She nodded. It's set to affect only their specific physiology. Any humans or other species should be unaffected. Activate it. A wave of invisible energy pulsed from their ship. On their monitors, they watched as Zithian guards stumbled and fell, their nervous systems temporarily scrambled by the radiation. The few non-Zithian workers looked around in confusion as their supervisors collapsed. Now, Maya, Jack ordered. Maya. Connected to the command center systems. I'm in their network. Uploading the footage now. On every screen throughout the command center and across the planet, images began to play recordings of dozens of species fighting for survival on the proving grounds. The footage had been extracted from the data they stole. It showed the true nature of the tributes, including humans sent after Lily. I'm accessing their fleet control systems, Maya reported, initiating shutdown protocols. Across the planet, Zithian warships powered down, their systems locked by Maya's commands. The mighty military machine of Zith Tertius was paralyzed. Jack opened a communication channel to the entire planet. People of Zith Tertius, you have been lied to for generations. Your leaders have sacrificed countless beings from dozens of worlds to die on their proving grounds. This ends now. As chaos spread through the command center, Jack led a small team to the central database. Unlike on Zith Secundus, they weren't looking for information this time. They were looking for people. The data they had stolen revealed that several test subjects from the proving grounds were being held in a research facility near the command center. Jack was determined to free them. They fought their way through the few guards who remained functional despite the radiation. The facility was hidden underground, away from the main buildings. In here, Maya said, hacking the door controls. The door slid open to reveal rows of cells. Inside each was a being from a different species. Some looked barely alive, while others pressed against the barriers, watching them with hope or fear. We're here to help, Jack announced as Maya disabled the cell controls. The barriers disappeared, and the prisoners stepped out cautiously. Among them was a human woman, maybe 30 years old. You're from Earth? She asked, her voice rough from disuse. Yes, Jack replied. I'm looking for my daughter, Lily Harlow. She was sent to the proving grounds about 7 months ago. The woman's eyes widened. The girl who survived? They talked about her, said she was special, that she adapted faster than anyone they'd seen before. They took her to Zith Prime 4. More tests. Is she alive? Jack asked, his heart pounding. She was when they took her, about 2 months ago. The woman looked down. They were very interested in her. That's usually not a good thing. They freed all the captives, 23 beings from 11 different species. Each one provided another piece of information about the collective's true nature, and confirmed what Jack already knew. Lily had been transferred to Zith Prime for special study. As they prepared to leave Zith Tertius, Jack received a transmission from an unexpected source Earth. This is Admiral Susan Rivers of the United Earth Defense Force. Commander Harlow, you are ordered to stand down and surrender your vessel immediately. Jack stared at the screen. Earth had sent someone after him. He should have expected this. Admiral Rivers, I'm afraid I can't do that. Not until I find my daughter. Your actions have put Earth's alliance with the Zithians at risk, Rivers replied. You've been designated a terrorist and enemy of humanity. Jack laughed bitterly. Did they tell you what the alliance really costs? Did they tell you about the children they sacrifice every year to keep the Zithians happy? There was a pause. What are you talking about? Ask your superiors about the tribute program. Ask them how many kids they've sent to die on the proving grounds, then decide if I'm the enemy. He ended the transmission. Vega, set course for Zith Quartus. We need to keep moving. As they left Zith Tertius behind, with its military in disarray and its prisoners freed, Jack checked the encrypted channel where he had received the previous message about Lily. There was a new message waiting. They know you're coming. They're moving her again. Hurry. Jack stared at the words. Who was sending these messages? Could they be trusted? He had no choice but to continue his plan and hope he would reach Lily in time. The Zithian collective was starting to crumble under the weight of its own lies. 3 planets down, 4 to go. And somewhere on Zith Prime, his daughter was waiting. Zith Prime loomed ahead, a swirling mix of blue and silver that served as the homeworld of the Zithian collective. After months of systematic attacks on the other 6 planets, Jack had finally reached his ultimate target. The ruling caste lived. Here, and somewhere on this planet, was Lily, if she was still alive. They've concentrated all their remaining forces to protect Zith Prime, Maya reported from her station. A direct attack would be suicide. Jack nodded. He had expected this. We're not going to attack directly. We're going to use everything we've learned. Over the past months, as they had moved from planet to planet, Jack's mission had evolved. What began as one man's quest for vengeance had grown into something larger. On each planet, they had found allies among the lower castes of Zithians and freed captives from dozens of species who had been used in the collective's experiments. Now, those allies were ready to help. Status report, Jack said. Dr. Wright looked up from her console. The uprisings on the 6 subsidiary planets are proceeding as planned. The lower castes have seized control of most major cities. Frank added, the Coalition fleet is in position. Ships from 12 different species, all with their own scores to settle with the Zithians. Admiral Rivers, who had joined Jack's crew, after learning the truth about the tribute program, spoke next. Earth has officially withdrawn from the alliance with the Zithians. They've also sent a message to all species in this sector, warning them about the collective's practices. Jack took a deep breath. VEGA, show me the layout of the Central Research Facility. A holographic map appeared, showing a massive complex at the heart of the capital city. According to their intelligence, this was where the Zithians kept their most valuable research subjects, including Lily. The facility is heavily guarded, Vega noted. Even with the distractions from the uprisings and the Coalition fleet, penetrating it will be difficult. Jack studied the map. We need to find a way in that they won't expect. Maya pointed to a section of the map. There's a waste disposal system that runs under the facility. It's not guarded as heavily as the main entrances. That's our way in. Jack decided. A small team, just me, Rivers, Frank, and Dr. Wright. Maya will coordinate from the ship. As they prepared for the mission, Jack received one final message on the encrypted channel. The Supreme Archon knows you're coming. He's waiting for you. Be careful. Jack stared at the message. The Supreme Archon was the leader of the entire collective, rarely seen even by other Zithians. If he was personally involved, the situation was even more dangerous than Jack had thought. The plan was set in motion. The Coalition fleet engaged the Zithian defenses, drawing away their military forces. Simultaneously, the uprisings on the other planets intensified, forcing the collective to split their attention. Jack's team landed, their small shuttle in an abandoned area near the capital city. Using the chaos as cover, they made their way to the entrance of the waste disposal system. The tunnels were dark and narrow, designed for maintenance drones rather than people. According to the schematics, we should be directly beneath the research facility now, Dr. Wright whispered as they reached a junction in the tunnels. Rivers pointed to a service hatch above them. That should lead into the lower levels. They climbed through the hatch and found themselves in a dimly lit corridor. The facility was eerily quiet. Where are the guards? Frank asked, his weapon ready. This doesn't feel right, Jack said. Stay alert. They moved carefully through the facility, following the directions Maya provided through their comlinks. As they went deeper, they began to find signs of recent activity, doors left open, equipment abandoned mid-use. It's like they left in a hurry, Rivers observed. They reached a large laboratory filled with stasis pods, dozens of them, each containing a subject from a different species. Most were empty, but some still held beings suspended in a clear fluid. Life signs detected in 12 pods. Vija reported through their COMS.Jack moved from pod to pod, looking for Lily. His heart pounded as he reached the far end of the room. There, in the last pod, was a young woman with familiar features. Changed. Her skin had a faint bluish tint, and there were strange markings along her arms. Lily, Jack whispered, placing his hand on the glass. The genetic modifications are extensive, Dr. Wright said. examining the pod's control panel. They've been trying to incorporate Zithian DNA into her human genome. Can you get her out? Jack asked urgently. Dr. Wright nodded. Yes, but we need to be careful. The shock could kill her if we do it wrong. As Dr. Wright worked to safely deactivate the pod, a door at the far end of the laboratory slid open. A tall, elegant Zithian entered, flanked by 4 guards. Unlike other Zithians Jack had seen, this one had 6 arms instead of 4, and skin that shifted colors like liquid metal. Commander Harlow, the Zithian said in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once, I am the Supreme Archon of the Zithian Collective. I've been expecting you. Jack raised his weapon. Stay back. We're taking these people with us. The Archon made a gesture that might have been amusement. Your determination is remarkable. No wonder your daughter survived our trials. The genetic potential in your species is exactly what we've been searching for. What are you talking about? Jack demanded. The tributes were never just tests, the Archon explained. They were harvests. For millennia, we have been incorporating the strongest traits from other species into our own. Your daughter's remarkable survival abilities are now part of our evolutionary path. Jack felt sick as he understood the full horror of what the Zithians had been doing. Not just testing other species, but stealing parts of their genetic code to enhance themselves. You won't be doing that anymore, Jack said firmly. It ends today, the Archon smiled. I could offer you a deal, Commander. Your daughter for your silence. Help us quell the rebellions you've started, and she leaves with you. Behind him, Dr. Wright signaled that she was ready to open Lily's pod. Jack made his decision. VEGA, he said clearly. Execute final protocol. In orbit above Zith Prime, Jack's ship released a carefully calibrated radiation pulse 1 that would affect only the unique genetic signature of the ruling caste, developed through their centuries of genetic manipulation. The Supreme Archon's skin began to ripple strangely. He looked at his hands in confusion as they started to lose cohesion. What have you done? He gasped. You sacrificed my child to a Deathworld, Jack said quietly. I returned the favor. As the Archon and his guards collapsed, Dr. Wright opened Lily's pod. The young woman's eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then settling on Jack's face. Dad? She whispered, her voice rough from disuse. Is it really you? Jack gathered her in his arms, tears streaming down his face. It's me, Lily. I found you. In the days that followed, the Zithian Collective's rigid hierarchy collapsed entirely. Without the ruling caste, the lower castes established a new, more equal society with help from the coalition of formerly exploited species. Dr. Wright worked to stabilize Lily and the other test subjects, reversing what genetic modifications she could. Lily would never be exactly as she was before, but she was alive and recovering. Earth's corrupt officials who had participated in the tribute program were exposed and removed from power. Admiral Rivers led the effort to establish new ethical guidelines for interstellar relations. As for Jack and Lily, they returned to Nexus Station. There, with Dr. Wright's help, they established a foundation to help other victims of the Collective's experiments and to monitor new interstellar powers for signs of similar exploitation. Jack's one-man mission had changed the galaxy. The legend spread far and wide. Harm a human child, and you don't just make an enemy of one person. You make an enemy of a species that will return the favor, planet by planet.